so I can keep on sort of deconstructing, breaking apart this thing. That is divisibility. Physical substance has the ability to be divided, to be broken into smaller parts. Mental substance, since it doesn't have any shape, since it doesn't occupy any space, doesn't have the ability to be divided. It's indivisible. So how is it that something that doesn't even have any shape, that can't be deconstructed, that can't be broken into more basic component parts, how can that have effect on something which can be, right? It doesn't seem that there's an ability for my mind, if I understand my mind in terms of being immaterial, indivisible, how can that affect change? How can it cause something to move? How can it break things into parts? It doesn't seem possible. And then the last is a philosophical term, number 6. We say that, and there might be more, but this is what I've listed. We say that the mind is incorporeal, C-O-R-P-O-R-E-A-L, and then we say the body is P-O-R-E, right? So to be corporeal is nothing other than saying that it's physical, that it occupies space, that it has extension, right? That its modality is confined by its shape, by its space, by its dimension, with height, and so on, right? So these are some of the separations between the mind and the body. And what Princess Elizabeth of Bohemia, which I read to you earlier, what she was able to do is to offer one of the first critiques of this dualism. Descartes never set out to have this dualism, right? It was a consequence of his methodological skepticism, of his radical doubt. And he realized that there were flaws with the body, and he gave primacy to the mind. But in so doing, we have a miscommunication, because Descartes believes we have both, that we have both mind and body. And the question that she asked is, how is it that my mind, which doesn't have any extension in the world, it's not like a hand that can open a door, right? How does my mind, which is unextended, affect something which has extension, right? And there's really no way to answer that. And there might be ways, there's been philosophers who've tried, but for the most part, everyone's given up the mind-body dualism. What we end up realizing is there's a camp to choose, right? You have basically philosophy is now divided into 2 camps, right? You have, where's my eraser? You have those philosophers that argue, since we recognize that we can't have this dualism where we agree that both mind and body exist within one and the same entity, sentient being, you have some philosophers that choose mental, you have some philosophers that choose physical. And there's lots. Philosophy is probably equally divided into 2 parts, right? For materialists, A-L-I-S-T, for materialists or physicalists, P-H-Y-S-I-C-A-L-I-S. So for materialists or physicalists, the materialist or the physicalist believes that the entirety of existence, all of existence, is composed of physical things, right? Of body, of matter. So all of existence, E-X-I-S-T, existence is made entirely of matter, right? So the materialist, the physicalist believes that that existence is made entirely of matter. So when we talk about mind, right, for the physicalist, for the materialist, when we talk about mind as being this non-extended, indivisible, immaterial substance, the physicalist says that our interpretation of mind is incorrect. The physicalist says we have a mind, but when I say mind as a physicalist, I don't mean mind in this sort of spooky sense, right? Indivisible, unextended, immaterial sense. I mean it's chemical. Our mind is our brain, right? It's axons and dendrites. It's chemical secretions. It's serotonin. It's all of the pharmacology that creates our brain, and that pharmacology is what causes us to respond, right? It's pharmacology that gets my emotions on or off balance. It's pharmacology that, it's the secretion of enzymes and serotonin that changes my body, that makes me feel euphoric, that makes me feel happy, that helps me to grow, that causes me to extend my hand in the world. Our mind is nothing other than a biological entity, right? It's physical, right? It can be measured, it can be assessed, it can be weighed. There is no mind that's immaterial. That's the argument of the physicalist. The benefit of materialism, right? The benefit of materialism is that we can account for, the materialist, the physicalist, can account for causal interaction, right? I can make sense of how things interact. How does things interact? How was I able to extend my hand? It wasn't that my mind, this immaterial thing, told my hand to extend. I had the desire to extend my hand, and a portion of my brain secreted a particular something. I don't know. I'm not a neurobiologist. Secreted some type of enzyme or substance that caused firing to go through my nerves, down my arm, to cause my hand to extend, right? So that there's a direct causal relationship between what happens in my brain and the juices it secretes, for lack of better terms. I really don't have this knowledge, for lack of better terms, that cause my body to extend itself in the world.